This week's episode of Quality Irrelevant is brought to you by Auntie Jemmy's lovely, friendly, cuddly-wuddly love bunnies. We all know life can be hard, and some days you might just feel like everything is becoming too much to handle. But before you reach for that bottle of cheap whiskey and fistful of painkillers you've definitely got right there in your desk drawer, Auntie Jemmy wants you to stop, pick up a lovely, friendly, cuddly-wuddly love bunny and hug away the pain. That's right, your kindly Auntie Jemmy wants you to put away the handgun you have pressed to your quivering, sweaty temple and spend your money on a lovely, friendly, cuddly-wuddly love bunny instead of that prostitute you were planning to spend your last night on Earth with but not even have sex with because all you want is companionship. So rather than making some poor, underpaid council worker scrape your jam-like remains off the pavement at the bottom of that cliff you often drive past even though it's not even on your way from your house to the office, pick up one of Auntie Jemmy's lovely, friendly, cuddly-wuddly love bunnies and forget all your troubles. Auntie Jemmy is so sure you'll be fine, she's promised to kill you with her own two hands and a harpoon gun if you don't feel at least a little bit better. Auntie Jemmy's lovely, friendly, cuddly-wuddly love bunnies. It's either this or suicide. I'll tell you how I got that ad read, how it was delivered to me.
Was it from beyond the grave?
No, there was a weird knocking at my door and I opened it and there was like a tesseract just sort of floating there and the ad read sort of spewed out of it. I assume from another dimension. Possibly some kind of parallel universe where Uncle Jimmy is actually Auntie Jemmy.
Well, I was going to ask if he, had the snip, as it were, and just decided to make the transition.
I don't think so, because if you know anything about Uncle Jimmy, he was very attached to his penis.
Yes, he did like to hold it quite a lot during conversation. But I do wonder if his death from last episode was perhaps but a spiritual death. A metaphorical death. A death of a personality rather than a person. Because I have to say, there were some amazing sentences in what you just read. In the beginning, it was quite pleasant, but as it droned on, I then began to get very afraid and the chills came back along with the shaking and the tremors. And that is the reaction that Uncle Jimmy always used to evoke in me. There were a fair few similarities in terms of tone and a moral outlook of the degenerate. So I would say Uncle Jimmy and Auntie Jemmy, they're at least brother and sister, if not that weird science fiction scenario that sometimes crops up, like in Sliders, where occasionally you encounter yourself, but you are a woman one and you end up bumming yourself by accident. Maybe it's one of those. Or maybe Uncle Jimmy has indeed moved on to a better place, a more loving place. And on the subject of love, do you sex the bunnies, or was there some other purpose there?
I think it's more innocent than that. I think you have sullied it with your filth talk. So, no, they're cuddly-wuddly. They're not fucky-wucky.
That's next week's product.
Yeah.
Also, when I was speaking there, were you Googling Sliders?
No, because, spoiler, I did Google Sliders earlier this week.
Under what circumstances is it necessary to Google Sliders?
I wanted to know some stuff about Sliders.
What were you doing? Was this a wank? That's the only circumstances I will accept. Have we spoken about Sliders before on the podcast? I feel we may have.
I don't think we've spoken about it on the podcast. I think we have spoken about it in real life.
In the after show.
Yeah.
Which is just our lives.
Yep, and we don't get anything out of it.
There are things that we must address this week, Phil, as I'm sure that you are aware, because yes, this week is Crisis!
Oh my god.
Crisis has struck the heart of Quality Irrelevant. How are we going to get through this one? What are we going to do? How are we going to solve it, Phil? What's your plan?
I don't know.
Well, you better come up with one quick because yes, this week the Crisis Phil on trial.
What am I even on trial for this week?
Well, no, that's good. That's good. Plausible deniability right there. I don't even recognise the accusations flung hither and thither at my co-host, my client, my legal representative. Wait, I got our roles reversed. I'm the representative, and I eschew the question. I eschew the claims. I don't recognize these, what was it, crimes, allegations? No, we don't recognize, we're the victims, Phil, you and I, in this.
Yes, that is very true. I am the most victimized of all time.
Exactly, and the fact that you are on trial, that they've come for you, finally, they've come for you. Don't get me started on the state, man, and on the politicians, and the man.
I would never get you started on the man.
Don't. And the system, the man's system that, like, steps on actual people like you and I, like, you know, how we're more real than the suits and the ties.
I'm definitely more real than a tie.
Exactly, although you will be wearing a nice little tie in court because you want to look all smart and nice in front of the judge, if it comes to that.
Can I wear a tie that just has someone giving the finger on it?
As your legal representative, I urge you to wear that tie in court, because how else did the masses hear our plea? Phil on trial, the greatest travesty of our times. I do not recognise, have I said this bit? I don't recognise the allegations against you, Phil. It will all be alright when your trial is broadcast live to the world, because the significance of such an event is global in scale. I will be there looking out for you, right? But we're having a little quiet conversation here, just you and me. We're going to come up with a plan. It'll be a solid plan, and you don't have to worry. So, let's be honest. Do you need me to move any items? Like, it's okay. You just need to give me a little wink, a little nudge, a little note slipped across the desk, and I'll take care of it. I've got hands. I've got peoples. I won't say it here, but, you know, I've got some people on the inside. Okay, shh. So, where's she buried?
There's no one buried.
Oh, no one said anyone was buried.
No.
I didn't say that.
I didn't.
No one died.
No. You can be buried and not be dead.
No one died. That's the line.
That is the line. No one is dead.
Yes, and in court, that's exactly what you're going to say to the judge.
I will say to the judge, no one is dead. I do not recognise these allegations because they don't appear to be written in English. Possibly hieroglyphics, I don't know.
And that's not racist, Your Honour. My client, that's not racism on his behalf. It's not his way to, insult Egyptians like that. That was just, he's oppressed.
I am oppressed by the Egyptians, specifically the ancient Egyptians, apparently.
I mean, it's probably not a good idea to bring up other groups you've offended, Phil, but those magicians, they did have ties to ancient Egyptian law or something like that. There was something in that now you see me bullshit about the ancient Egyptians, so no doubt that's relevant somehow. You know, magic and that.
There are definitely pyramids. Like, a lady has got in a pyramid and I've put a sword through her. And that's fine, but apparently I'm on trial now.
Oh yeah, how is that okay, Your Honour? Why is my client on trial when that lady got sworded all the way through?
It's unfair.
It's, what's the word? A miscarriage.
The miscarriage. Was that lady pregnant?
What?
Is that what?
It could have been a medical procedure.
Oh, it could.
That was it. That's it. That's it. Okay, we need to get you your doctor's license.
I wonder if anyone has ever done that. Tried desperately to get a medical license to excuse away the fact that they've cut a lady's spleen out.
What? Okay, allegedly, Your Honour, allegedly there is no spleen.
Or allegedly cut a lady's spleen out.
Show me the spleen, Your Honour. Show me the spleen. Now that will stand in court, I think.
That's the weird parallel universe version of Jerry Maguire. Show me the spleen!
Okay, I think you need to say that as you dramatically turn to the jury with a sweep of your arm, because that is a brilliant rhetorical device right there that will win them over.
So what you're saying is I have to charm the jury.
Well, you are the victim in all of this.
Yes, not that lady whose spleen is definitely still in her body.
You are the real victim of that girl who died.
If a girl was to have died, then I would be the victim.
You're the victim, okay? So let's do a little bit of role play.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in court, you've got your fuck you tie on, we've got the judge, there's the jury, they're just, your peers, just everyday folk.
Are there any Egyptians in there?
Well, they've been deselected because of some comments that were made in the pre-trial that I take full responsibility for, okay? I'll throw myself on that grenade, okay? I shouldn't have gone off about the magician's thing and hieroglyphics. And do you remember Mummies, that cartoon that was sort of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Hero
Mummies
Turtles?
Alive.
Mummies Alive, that was it. Because I remembered that in my opening statement. And then I started thinking about why was Sean Connery an Egyptian in Highlander? They had a Frenchman play the Scotsman.
Yeah.
And they had a Scotsman play an Egyptian who was Spanish.
Yeah, because he was called Rodriguez, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was an Egyptian Spaniard.
Yep, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
When we were talking about mummies, I wasn't thinking about Mummies Alive, I was just thinking about Mum-Ra.
Your Honour, my client has got confused between Mum-Ra offensive.
I'll be honest, if Mum-Ra was in the jury, then I would want you to call for a mistrial.
It would balance out if we got like Lion-O or someone in.
I will concede to having Mum-Ra in the jury of my trial if Lion-O is also in the jury.
Exactly, and I think, if we put that argument forward, that won't be perceived as absurd in any way. Because, Phil, you are a sympathetic figure.
Yes.
Okay, you're the classic victim role, okay? White, male, middle class, okay?
All of the hardest things to be in the world.
Exactly, so come on, isn't that worth something? Come on now, be reasonable. Look at him. We were told, not to put a finer point on it, but we'd be all right, man to man. I'm assuming the judge is a man. I'm sorry, I'm a sexist. I'm not going to turn to the jury when I say that.
Well, that's not anything to do with you, Theo. That is to do with the system. The system is inherently misogynistic, and we are taking a stand against that. That is why I have my tie with someone giving the finger on it.
And if I were able to, I would put myself on trial in the middle of your trial to prove how oppressed we are in our roles in this modern world. But I can't because I'm actually going to be on a laptop in the courtroom because I'm still not allowed out. They don't let me out these days. So I'm going to be broadcast to the courtroom via Skype video messaging service provided by Microsoft. It's a company. So that's how I will be. I'll be there with you in spirit and, high speed, high quality video chat. You see.
Well, that's as good as in person these days. Have you seen the quality of Microsoft's products lately? Microsoft, it's a company.
Yeah, OneNote.
Of all the products to pick.
It's one you can't fucking get rid of.
And nobody knows how to use it.
I understand the concept of OneDrive, I think. But OneNote, I don't know, oh god, it's a mess. Anyway, Microsoft, it's a company. So at this point, I think we've won.
Yeah, well that's good.
Because we can just turn to Your Honour and just say, Your Honour, come on now.
My lord, honestly... What?
Yeah, what the fuck? We've been dragged in here.
For some reason, I'm wearing a tie with my orange prison jumpsuit.
Yep.
That you've insisted that I wear. And, you've strapped me to this upright gurney and put a Hannibal Lecter mask on me.
Yeah, he didn't even chew a face off.
I didn't even bite anyone.
No one's face was chewed, shown off.
No one's face was shown off.
Right? No one's face was shown off, okay, Your Honour. So why has he got the fucking ball gag on?
It's turned very quickly from a Hannibal Lecter mask, kind of creepy and sinister, to a ball gag. In many ways, more creepy and sinister to see an out-of-context ball gag.
I guess I'm unfamiliar with all the bondage stuff, so therefore to me it's this'll do, it's similar. But I guess to anyone au fait with this kind of stuff, they would be like, oh, that's That's very uncouth.
It's a faux pas.
Yeah, it's a faux pas, exactly, to use a ball gag in a courtroom.
Yes, none of that, thank you.
Okay, well, we'll get the ball gag removed.
I don't know if the defendant gets a closing statement, but I think that will be my closing statement. None of this nonsense, and then just walk out.
Won't you be wheeled out on your gurney?
I'll sort of shuffle.
Shuffle, okay, so like the brakes are on, but you can still like...
I'll sort of thrust my torso forwards and hopefully drag the gurney along with my frame.
Now, Phil, I think the judge is going to take one look at you, mate, and then he's going to say, well, I never before have I seen such a damning indictment of our modern society. You and your pretend lawyer shall go free immediately. Bang, bang, I've banged the hammer down now, so fuck off, get out of my courtroom, and the young innocent girl shall go to prison forever for wasting the court's time.
And for decomposing all over the place. I mean, she's not dead.
Yes, and for getting her own face sewn up. What a bitch. Bang, bang, fuck off. And then we all go free. The bailiff just cuts your zip ties.
Yeah, just sort of empties me out onto the street as you would do a wheelbarrow.
And then they just sort of like do the thing where they pick you up by the back of the neck and like the back of the trousers and then just throw you.
And then I tumble down all 300 steps outside the Basingstoke Supreme Court and then have to sort of drag myself all the way back up to carry out the lawsuit against the people who broke me by throwing me down some stairs.
There's a critique in there.
Justice.
Can a trial go to sudden death? Like, you know, it's not going too well. Maybe they didn't like our comments about Egyptians and magicians. Again, that confused. And we said some horrific things, some feats of grammar that are crimes in and of themselves. So if it's not going too well, yeah, well, you know, let's not say it again. But if we had to, right, I've got an ace up my sleeve, okay?
Yeah.
So say that scenario doesn't play out tomorrow night, okay? Then what? Can we take it to a sudden death round? And what does that entail?
As far as I'm aware, I'm no lawyer.
I'm not either.
You tell me that now.
Oh shit, I will be tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Internet is a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've got a little app for Skype video chat messaging service by Microsoft. Microsoft, it's a company. You can like overlay a law degree emoji like onto your video chat as you're speaking, so it's like in the background there, so you're like, okay, legit mate, lawyers.
And also you can overlay a suit onto your otherwise naked body while you video chat, which is helpful.
Imperceptible to the modern eye.
I mean, if you move too quickly, then it does just sort of stay in position and then you just see your like naked shoulders. But, you know, for the most part, flawless.
That's bandwidth issues in the courthouse. That's not Microsoft's bag.
No, Microsoft is a company. As far as I'm aware, it's a very little used legal precedent. But if the judge feels as though the trial is sort of not getting anywhere, maybe even if the judge is just getting bored, they can bring out a big red button and just put it on their desk, the law desk.
They're in like a it's not a pulpit, it's like the judge zone.
The judge zone. So they put the button on the judge zone and then they slam their fist down on it and klaxon goes off, streamers come down from the ceiling, maybe like a scantily clad lady walks through in that weird way that the ladies holding the cards in boxing matches do.
So they walk sideways but face forwards.
Yeah, that weird thing where they look like they might have rickets. And then the judge just gets a megaphone out and just shouts, "Sudden death!" So then sudden death happens and first lawyer to say sidebar wins.
Okay, I might have a bit of trouble with that one because I'm on the laptop, you see, and the lag in the courtroom. The connection in here isn't all that great, and that's not Microsoft's fault, okay? Microsoft, it's a company.
Well, what I think has to happen is the lawyer also has to, like, wrap their knuckles on the old, the law zone. What we can do in that situation is I'll just throw the laptop at it.
Okay, try and hit the other lawyer in the head.
Yeah, and then on the ricochet, try and hit the judge zone.
Yeah.
And then we win the trial, other lawyer goes jail.
Potentially death.
Potential execution.
If his brain died when the laptop hit him in the skull.
Because I will aim to like hit him with the corner of the laptop.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a killing blow.
Right in the temple. And also, the laptop provided by the court, I suspect, will be an older model.
Oh, okay, so it's got a mechanical hard drive in there still. Black, hard plastic. And like a battery the size of your leg.
Yeah, and I will aim the very sharp corner of the laptop right at the base of the other lawyer's neck.
Take that, lawyer. You got sudden death in the sudden death round.
And then everyone has to shout justice at the end.
Is it not justice to murder the opponent's lawyer in your own defense? It was in defense. You're the defendant.
That's how it works.
Self-defense. Because you threw the laptop, so it was self-defense because you were defending yourself.
I was defending myself against the potential for imprisonment by braining a lawyer with a very old laptop.
Is that not the most damning satire of the legal system that you have ever heard? Because not only is this your trial, this is also a performance of sorts.
And does someone get gunged? I feel like someone should get gunged.
Yeah, maybe. I suspect that Dave Benson Phillips may be around the courthouse that day for unrelated reasons.
They're just pointing at people.
Yeah, so we just bring him in, just wheel him in on his own gurney.
From that court case from him drowning those children in wet cement.
And then the floor opens up. The floor of the courthouse just opens up and there's a big pool of gunge like in It's a Wonderful Life. And then everyone falls in and they all laugh and have a good time.
I've lost sight of how this started.
Well, that's fine because we've still got time to prepare for the big night tomorrow when it's broadcast live and the decision is made one way or the other. The fate of Phil. Spin the wheel of justice and see which side it lands. I suppose the idea of sort of a mechanism of chance, potentially it's the opposite sort of, no, wait, it's a satire.
Yeah.
There we go. That's it. That's the excuse.
But it's like a really heavy-handed satire in the same way that like Rollerball is a satire. Do you remember that movie? Remember Rollerball?
The brother of Thunderball.
Yep.
Thunderball 2, Rollerball. It's a satire.
Yep, so that's all good. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy lawyering schedule to come and do this podcast on those phones in prison, you know, when you're like opposite sides of glass.
I mean, not to make fun of the conditions in which inmates find themselves, but there is a lot of like, you know, those little holes in the glass to let a small amount of sound through that are usually sealed up these days because people would poke cigarettes or snouts through, as they're known on the inside. Oh, sorry, in the clink clink.
The clink clink.
Well, there is a lot of genitalia being mashed up against those.
Like a Play-Doh fun factory of genitalia.
Yeah, well, you know, you gotta have contact.
Yeah. Like those Play-Doh things when it makes someone's hair and you like mash it through essentially like a cheese grater.
How did Play-Doh work? Because mine always just turned into a kind of a reddy brown colour because it just all got mashed together.
Yeah, I seem to remember a lot of mine becoming purple very quickly.
They was like, keep it separate. How? How the fuck do you do that?
How do you do that, Mum?
Or just the advert where there's all this perfectly coloured and shaped Play-Doh they just like peel apart and then it goes back in the tub. That's fucking impossible. No one can do that. No one has that kind of skill.
If children can do that with Play-Doh, there is a very good chance they will grow up to be a serial killer.
Anyway, Play-Doh is a mystery that I feel should be answered at another date on this podcast.
Yeah, coming up on the Play-Doh special.
What I'm going to propose now, though, to take your mind off your current situation, Phil, do you want to move on to recriminations and sentiments?
I think it is important that we do because I can only fear for what is waiting for me on the inside of the clink clink.
Okay, we are now moving into recriminations and sentiments with Phil and Theo on Quality Irrelevant.
The first one reads, "This podcast was fine, although I couldn't really understand it and there wasn't enough talk about slightly soggy stale bread for my liking. 2 stars.
Soggy bread?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Apparently, that is what the listeners want. I mean, viewers. It's what the viewers want.
Okay, I am confused by this, because the whole point of stale... Well, if there is a point. If you have stale... I've worked out the point.
What is the point?
I was going to say, stale bread, quite hard, quite tough.
Yeah.
Soggying it up just makes it wet and unpalatable. But... perchance, what they are talking about is a trencher.
What is a trencher?
A trencher, I believe, in my mind, is a very funny meal from the past. You know, you'd see it in your Game of Thrones and your Lords of the Rings and that kind of thing. It's for the soldiers, it's for the working men, it's for the people on the road. So there might be a boiling pot of gruel, thin, watery, maybe there's a bit of pig bollock in it somewhere, and a really ruddy looking carrot and half a potato and a raw onion and like some oats found on the bottom of a barn or something. But you get a bit of stale bread that's gone bad. It's got really nasty hard bread. Cut that in half, scoop out some of the bready bit, throw the bready bit in the gruel, and then slop it back in your trencher, and you got a bowl, right? And you can eat the bowl. You don't need like a spoon or a fork or a knife. You just got your trencher in your hands and you just go at that like a burrito. And that is a hearty meal for a warrior, for a soldier on the road, you see.
So it's like soldiers and warriors on the road, and essentially like peasant people and hipsters have like sourdough bread that they cut a hole in and put spinach dip in.
You know what? I just thought we could possibly start up a hipster foodery.
We could start up a pop-up restaurant that just serves trenchers.
Yeah, it was just called The Trench, and all we do is trenches, and we have a trough of like hard bread, and then like just a big cauldron of really watery gruel, and then that's it, and we'll just let them have at it. But if they take an extra ladle of gruel, then we'll like cut their hand off with a big sword.
Or they have to pay like an extra £7.50.
Yeah, they have to put money in the tip jar.
Yeah.
They have to, because we said.
Otherwise, we will ban all moustaches from the shop.
Shit. Well, there goes our customer base.
Well, it should serve as a warning to them then, shouldn't it?
Yes.
No extra gruel for you, otherwise all get out of my shop.
Exactly. How the fuck did we get onto this? Oh, the soggy bread man. Yeah, he's probably a hipster. He could be our first customer.
So he's either a hipster or some kind of fantasy warrior. He exists in the Morgul Earth or something. I don't know. I don't know fantasy.
No, I don't really either. I know the popular bits.
Yeah.
Hobbit. Saruman.
Nazgul.
Yes. Warg Riders.
Big sword.
I was trying to think of anything from Krull, but I couldn't remember anything about Krull.
That weird star thing that he throws.
Ah.
Is that Krull? We've gone off on a horrible tangent.
Okay, back on track.
So the second recrimination and or sentiment is the following. Sometimes I listen to this podcast while violently gang raping my dead friends in a pond. It really helps to clear away all the distractions and allows me to focus completely on the job in hand.
What is the purpose of the pond in that scenario?
I don't know. It's a place to meet your dead friends. Like, you know, when you were a kid and it used to be like, oh, should we meet at the park with the pond, to differentiate from like the park with the tree. I mean, it's like that. It's like a pond is just like a landmark.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not as many ponds around as there used to be when we were kids.
Ponds were a bigger part of childhood, I feel, than adult life.
Yeah.
Like, ponds were a big deal because you could like put your hand in and there'd be things in there, like alive things.
They're like frog spawn.
Yeah, like, oh, you get some frog spawn, and even though it is pretty gross, you could like squish it and show it to a girl and she go, ah, and run away, and then you like throw it at her.
And then you like smush it in her hair.
Yeah, and then she's like crying and crying and crying, going, I hate you.
And everyone says it's because you fancy them, but you actually just wanted to feel something die in your hand.
Fucking hell. Well, that took us on a little journey into our past. So what's the third and final one?
And the third and final recrimination and or sentiment that I have received this week is the following. So that's...
What the fuck was that?
It's just a recrimination and or sentiment that I got.
What... That sounded like a pigeon being trodden on.
So what I will say is that I think what has happened with these recriminations and sentiments, I got a little bit drunk. I think I might have got them out of the Tesseract as well. And I think they weren't meant for us. I think they were meant for the alternate universe Duck World version of this podcast.
Oh, Duck World.
The Duck World version of this podcast is called Quackery Incoherent. It's why it's got about ducks. So I think all of those recriminations and or sentiments were from ducks.
I would question the validity of the idea that the only things ducks would have to talk about are other ducks or being ducks. However, that seems to be all that humans do on their podcasts. So...
Except now when we are humans talking about ducks.
And I am speaking of humans as if I'm not one of them, which is a strange turn of phrase I've adopted. But, yeah, I mean, you would have thought they'd be more interested in, like, that time that one of them was a vampire, or the time that they won the hockey.
That time that one of them, like, swan dived into a vault of money.
Yeah, and, like, didn't, like, break his beak open.
Yeah.
That time that they all had, like, different coloured jumpers and hats.
And that time that there were, like, 3 different generations of ducks, but they were all male, and there was no sign of any female ducks, and it was a little bit suspicious. And they were all, like, uncles and nephews. There wasn't, like, a direct line, because it was Uncle Scrooge McDuck, and then Donald Duck, and then it was Huey, Dewey, and Louie were all Donald Duck's nephews. So where was the rest of that fucking family?
Dead.
They're all dead. Did they all try and jump in the vault of money?
Well, we never saw what was at the bottom under the money.
Just duck skeletons.
Well, I mean, that, you know, we've all heard of blood money. You know, where did that fortune come from? Off the backs of the dead and dying ducks.
Literally.
Sometimes ducks can hypnotize people.
What?
Remember, there was that one in that Pokemon?
Oh, yeah.
Psyduck, I think.
Sometimes they can be the spirit-type superheroes with a big cape and a big hat.
That hat was ridiculous. It was an amazing hat. Sometimes ducks can be friends of Garfield.
Yeah.
And remember the Daffy'd duck.
He had an hilarious speech impediment.
And that time he got called that racist slur by Donald Duck on the stage in that film with Bob Hoskins.
Yes.
We're missing a duck. We're missing one. Was Orville a duck?
Yeah.
Or was he like a chicken?
I think he was a duck.
Okay, hold on. Research break. Hi gang, so I'm listening back to this and we just go on talking about ducks for at least another 20 minutes. So without any way to smoothly transition out of this duck discussion, I think I'm just going to cut it here so we can swiftly move on. Howard the Duck, that's it. That's the duck we're missing. Howard the Duck. Got it in the end. Right, I'm finally getting around to my recriminations and sentiments for this week, and I think this one is a sentiment, a rare one.
Oh my god.
As a loyal viewer of the podcast, I felt compelled to write in and express my utter disgust towards the manner in which the great Phil of Quality Irrelevant has been portrayed in the media of late. If I were in his shoes, I would have done the exact same thing, and to prove it, that is exactly what I have just gone and done. I even made it look like the last one to potentially throw the police off the scent and get Phil exonerated. So, it appears you have a fan there, Phil. However, I would advise the public that if you are going to provide... what should we call it? Unwarranted legal advice. Maybe do it off the record.
And, like, don't tell us that you've done a copycat crime. Not copycat, because I didn't do it.
And not crime.
And not crime, because it's not illegal to do that.
If you even did it. Which you didn't.
Nobody did it. I mean, everybody's alive still, and everything is fine.
Yeah. No one died!
No.
Okay.
And, not even that many people were injured.
Exactly. Now, the next one is actually a bit of a recrimination, as it says, Phil is a naughty boy and should have to go to bed without any pudding.
But I like pudding.
Well, they don't seem to have taken that into account, Phil.
That is just monstrous that they would try and make me do something that I don't want to do.
Another example that you are a victim.
I am oppressed. I am oppressed as fuck.
Society doesn't allow you to do all the things because you weren't disciplined as a child, so therefore why don't you get to do all the things and kill that girl? No pudding, Phil. I think it will go down well in the public eye if, Phil of quality irrelevant sent to bed without pudding, atoning for perceived alleged crimes. Hasn't he suffered enough?
Yes, I definitely have suffered enough. That will be the headline.
But sneakily, we'll let you have a hot chocolate, so,
Yeah, that's basically pudding. It's like pudding, but also a drink.
Better in some ways. You can, tip your pudding into your hot chocolate and then have, hot pudding. I don't know why that's funny. Anyway, right, final one. I suspect Phil has actually been set up to take the fall for a series of unrelated and possible fictional crimes by his co-host Theo, potentially for no other reason than he thought it would be funny for a minute and had nothing else to bring to the podcast. I suspect that even by voicing this concern anonymously on the internet, I shall befall a similar fate as Phil, and I can now feel the wrath of the unstable one turning upon me. I fear this is the last thing I shall ever write, and that I am not long for this world. My last wish is that I would see Phil freed from his captivity and Theo held responsible for his crimes before others fall prey to this deranged individual. Remember me as I was, and may justice ultimately win the day. Well, it looks like you got yourself another fan there who doesn't seem to object to what you've done, so aren't you Mr. Popular this week?
This is nothing if not a popularity contest.
Oh wait, there's actually a bit more? Only joking, it was me all along. Big fan of the podcast though, love from the Butcher of Basingstoke.
Oh, that guy's good.
Aw, lovely to hear from him again. I'm a fan of his work, so...
It does good sausages.
Yep.
We like him. Well done, you. You're not blocked.
It seems the murderers really do flock to our podcast.
No, I mean, we need all of the views that we can get. So, murderers... come along, we open our gates to you.
The Butcher of Basingstoke, if you're a fan of his work, then we can claim to be the Butcher of Basingstoke's #1 podcast, if I may be so bold. And I'm not that bold because I want to keep all my digits.
Well, that is what the media will say about us. Maniac's favourite podcast. But it's, any publicity is good publicity, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is newsworthy because, is that not a damning indictment of society that a serial killer, a murderer, would get a public platform such as that?
And it just shows that the MSM, the mainstream media...
Thank you. I didn't know what that meant.
...are afraid of the new dynamic that is being introduced through the internet with the podcasts and them YouTubes that people do sometimes and blogs, and the fact that anyone who has enough digits on their hands to type in a username on Tumblr is basically a journalist now.
Commentary.
Take that, Rupert Murdochs.
Microsoft. It's a company.
Nice, get the plug in.
Did that fit?
I think so. Phil's Fun Film Fact.
Is that spelled with a PH?
All with a PH, yeah.
Obnoxious.
But it's just difficult to do fact rather than fact. Fact.
I feel like you should do the bumper again, but you have to say it like that.
Go fuck yourself.
Oh.
Sorry, go fuck yourself.
That was nearly a joke.
Oh, cut it out. Did you know that Back to the Future Part 2 was originally supposed to be the first film in the classic science fiction adventure comedy series rather than a sequel? In keeping with the franchise's enjoyably convoluted time travel shenanigans, director Robert Zemeckis thought starting with Part 2 and moving backwards to part 1 would be a unique hook for the now iconic series, but he was unfortunately stopped from taking this brave step by the studio, who claimed after test screenings that the move would cost major cinema chains a fortune in mopping up nose blood after every screening. The decision caused Zemeckis to undergo extensive rewrites, as his original vision for part 1 included far more graphic scenes of penetrative incestuous sexual intercourse between Marty and the younger version of his mother, and a downbeat ending as all of time and space is absorbed into the singularity in Lorraine McFly's vagina, leaving only a blank empty void which is shown on screen for a full 6 hours at the end of the movie. Studio heads have been quoted as saying this idea was fucking stupid, and the version of the series we all know and love was born.
Couldn't he have, just put it up her bum? And then it would have been alright? Alright by, not modern day standards, but...
Is incest all about the vagina?
That sounds like a title of a book. A best-selling book.
Or a podcast.
Okay. Now, I don't know if I want to be part of a podcast that just has incest in its title. That may be crossing a line. I know we've been against drawing lines on this podcast, but that may be it. I guess if I'm thinking about it, it's bad, but I suppose we can't be prosecuted.
No.
So I suppose we have to do it now. Just like Marty McFly.
So, in answer to your question, I don't know. It's a whole other project that I think we may need to embark on to figure out if it would have been all okay if Marty McFly just put it up the bum.
It's a legitimate question, I think. There's probably a PhD or so in there. But that was a weird film.
Yeah.
Why did they think that was okay?
I don't know.
It's not okay.
No.
It's like one of my films.
Yeah.
Remember the Patrick Fabian one that was Weird Science 2? And there was a lot in there that just wasn't okay. I'm pretty sure whoever proposed Back to the Future, that was very similar in concept.
Maybe the people who approved it didn't realise what was going on. They didn't really get the whole time travel thing. Maybe they just skim read the script. And then when it actually came out, they went, wait, this is what I funded? This weird science fiction incest movie?
And why are they friends? Why is he friends with the doc? That's never explained. What's the background there?
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Why does Marty's teacher think that Doc is, quote, a dangerous man?
What does he know? Who else at the school has been victimised?
Maybe the teacher is the hero of the tale. We don't know what Doc Brown did in the DeLorean behind locked doors, hastily locked as Marty was trying to get out.
Elizabeth Shue was left alone with him at one point.
For quite a long time.
Yeah, when she was unconscious.
Didn't he leave her behind a dumpster or something?
Yeah, that's where she was found the next day. Oh, this isn't fun.
No.
We're talking about poor Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah, she was a nice lady. Is she dead? I don't know.
No, she was the mother in Piranha 3D.
Oh, the classic penis off, the CGI penis.
Yep, a penis got eaten.
Yep, and then was just floating around.
Yep.
Just on the topic of Back to the Future 2, just wondered if you knew what the Japanese translation of the title is.
I'm not gonna guess.
It's Bad American Hoverboard Boy Ruined 2015 with Sports. So
that isn't it, is it?
Yeah, it is. Just go Google Translate.
So, shall we get onto the film pitch?
Yes.
The bread and butter, the meat and two veg. I'm just going to start naming genital words now, so let's go on quickly from there.
So, I'll give you a bit of a warning before we get into my film pitch.
Is this a disclaimer? Is it a legal disclaimer? Because I'm not a lawyer.
Well, no, it's more just a comment to you. I think your film pitches have rubbed off on me.
Good. It begins. The process has begun.
The process of assimilation.
Yes.
So no, I think your style of creating film pitches has rubbed off on me, because this is a couple of scenes and then just essentially just a bit where I go, and then the rest of the film happens.
Brilliant. Okay, shoot.
Okay, so the film opens in space with a voiceover from Patrick Fabian. What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I've found the gateway. So I will point out...
There's no attempt to imitate Patrick Fabian at all anymore.
It's a bad impression of Heath Ledger's Joker, essentially. Just to give you a bit of context to that opening voiceover, it kind of doesn't have any bearing on the plot.
What?
Or anything in the film. It is literally the opening voiceover from the TV show Sliders.
What the fuck?
Just lifted directly.
No! No, because I mentioned Sliders.
Yeah, I know.
No! No, that's a joke. When we say that we have one mind, that's a joke.
Oh my god, I've actually broken you.
Anyway, tell me about Sliders.
So, it's not Sliders. I just took that because it was vaguely relevant. We then, we quickly skip through a bunch of different versions of Patrick Fabian, all of which we have met in the past. So there is milky superhero The Teat, who is just squirting some milk out of his head at a boy.
Fantastic, the best one.
There's post-apocalyptic road warrior Patrick Fabian.
Oh, that was yours.
Who is reading the fucking Bible in Braille while stabbing a man with a rusty machete.
Brilliant.
The other slightly different post-apocalyptic road warrior Patrick Fabian.
Wait, there was two?
Shooting a horde of fuckwater zombies while turning down Melissa Joan Hart's kind offer of a quick mouth fuck behind the woodshed. There's murderous, superpowered psychopath hillbilly Patrick Fabian telekinetic watermelons into people's anuses.
Wait, when did that happen?
That was my one that was like Chronicle. Justice Super Friends : Dawn v Justice. I think that's what it was called. And the unconscionably smug horseman sneezes and accidentally turns into a billowing cloud of dollar bills and then farts and turns back into a human man again. So we got the fucking magician back.
What about Kirk Douglas in Falling Down? Michael Douglas.
No, he's not in it.
Oh.
All of a sudden, which I think is a classic like script note. You just put all of a sudden.
It's akin to meanwhile.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, the most expendable Patrick Fabian, and I've put in brackets probably the blind road warrior, looks into the sky and sees, and I've put in brackets hears, because he's blind, a giant antimatter wave flow over his whole planet. And he has a line here where he goes, "Oh my god, that will probably really disrupt my ability to be blind, but also totally competent and the best one at fighting in the whole post-apocalyptic wasteland."
Is that relevant to the plot? Are you dropping some foreshadowing there?
Yeah, obviously, because then immediately after that happens, the whole blind post-apocalyptic road warrior Patrick Fabian universe dissipates into nothing, and we hear a sinister laugh.
Oh.
Like a
Ooh. Where's that laughter coming from?
Oh, maybe we'll find out in literally 30 seconds. So when that happens, we get like a quick cut of all of the other Patrick Fabians, and they like shudder a little bit.
Oh, and do they bleed from the nose?
Maybe, but I've put just as like a note for how they should be shuddering.
Okay.
I've put like they've just had a painful orgasm after they've masturbated too many times in one day.
Wow. We have a lot of references to Patrick Fabian ejaculating in a variety of ways in our films. I feel sorry for the man.
Yeah, I do too, because we have victimized the poor gentleman.
Yeah.
So they all have this moment, but they all just dismiss it and they just move on with their lives, because what is that even? So then we see Stanley Tucci hanging out on a rock in space like Thanos. And he looks to his lackey Neil McDonough and says,
"Oh my god.
My plan is in motion, and soon I will wipe out all of the universes, so I am left sat on this fucking rock and nobody can bother me by walking in when I'm whacking it." And then I put in brackets, he looks passive-aggressively at Neil McDonough. So he's just like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about here.
Oh, yeah.
So then Neil McDonough says, "It's a noble goal to be sure, but won't all those Patrick Fabians everywhere have something to say about it?" And then Stanley Tucci says, "Not if I have anything to say about it." And then he laughs for 13 full minutes.
Can the camera just slowly fade out, like almost imperceptibly slow, doing that entire time?
Yes.
Yeah, so it takes 13 minutes.
No, it just goes in and out. Just keeps go back as if like more time has passed.
Oh, okay.
So it could be 13 full minutes. It could be like a week and a half. We just don't know. He's on a rock in space. He might not have anything better to do.
Those impressions you were doing were fantastic, by the way.
And very accurate, I feel.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. I also liked the way that it wasn't like the obvious, like, oh, you walked in on me whacking one.
Yeah.
Wasn't picked up in any way or acknowledged.
No.
By the other party. It was just like...
No, because he just wants to forget it.
Yeah. Oh, okay,
He's just
right.
like, I want to scrub that mental image from my brain immediately. It's not pleasant. So, with his trousers around his ankles, his like legs quivering as he's doing it.
Like hairy legs, like pale, pasty, hairy, sweaty legs.
Like patchy hair.
Yeah, like knobbly knees.
Yeah. So then after we get the little bit of context for the villains, you know, we've got a little bit of backstory about them now. We understand them. We understand their motives.
Yeah, there's an odd couple dynamic there.
So then we're back to the heroes. We're back to the heroes now. So we see the teat disappear into thin air just as he's about to rescue a puppy falling off a building. And we do see the puppy just get obliterated on the pavement. It's like...
Why is he rescuing a puppy?
Because he's a superhero.
What's that got to do with milk?
I don't know. He's trying to do it with a stream of milk.
Oh, then that puppy's dead either way. I mean...
Just the skin and flesh just shredded off it by a hot stream of milk.
I mean, I suppose maybe he could have developed his powers to a point that he could, like, hawk up, like, a milk jelly that's, like, quite viscous. And so it just splats into the dog and sort of catches it like a wet pillow.
I don't think he's not really paying attention.
And then he just, disappears and then...
He just disappears, yeah. Just blinks out of existence.
And then the puppy dies.
Yeah. And then we see Road Warrior Patrick Fabian disappearing into thin air just as he's about to finally give in to Melissa Joan Hart's mucky advances.
Oh, you wore him down.
Yeah, he was just like just about to lean in and put his mouth on her vagina and then he just disappears.
But he got like close enough for like his breath to be felt on the mons pubis.
Yep.
And she says that directly to the camera.
I mean, obviously she says, "You were finally about to give in to my advances and give me a kiss right on the downstairs. But now you've gone and disappeared on me, you fuck." So that is Melissa Joan Hart.
She sounds like Natalie Portman in V for Vendetta.
Yeah, she does a bit. I was going for like a Cockney hooer kind of thing. So we then see murderous, superpowered psychopath hillbilly Patrick Fabian disappear into thin air, just as he's about to try telekineticking a pineapple into someone's anus because it will probably hurt more than a watermelon. Like, he's just had the idea. He's just like, fuck, I've been doing it with watermelons this whole time, but a pineapple will probably hurt more because it's spiky. Up the bum.
Does he say that directly to the camera? And can you do
up the bum?
There we are.
And then, whoop, just disappeared. Pineapple drops to the floor. So then we see all three of those Patrick Fabians. They just appear in front of the unconscionably smug horseman, Patrick Fabian. He just gets really surprised, turns into money, obviously.
Yeah.
And like just comes back together, becomes a man again. He's like, "Who are you?" And they're all like, "We're Patrick Fabian." And this is where I've kind of just gone into a bit of a summary. So the movie goes through like standard team up dynamics. So they all have like a bit of a fight. I've just given some little bits of like flavor. It involves the whole teat being telekinetic up Road Warrior Patrick Fabian's anus.
Okay, now that doesn't seem very fair. That seems like, they're using one, like, was there an alliance formed there? Or is the teat also being very misused in this instance?
Yeah, the teat doesn't like it.
Oh, he's not a fan of being up there.
Like, nobody likes it except the psychopath hillbilly one.
Okay, then what happens to him?
Just hit with a lamp.
Through the lamp.
We'll say the magician one. Magicked a lamp into his own head.
Yeah, I mean, the magician one is going to be the skeeziest.
Yeah.
He's got the low wit of the magician.
And so, like, eventually they all come to a grudging respect for each other, as they tend to do in these situations. And they have a fight with Neil McDonough. He has a special move, because I feel like all villains in films need a special move, like Street Fighter. His special move is drinking a whole keg of beer in one go and then throwing the barrel at them.
Can't he, like, smash the keg against his head so that it goes flat, and then he throws it like a sort of a sharp disc?
Maybe that's what he does next. Like they get used to his current special move, and then they all have to combine their Zords and shoot a big laser at him.
Yeah, how come the Power Ranger one wasn't in this? Jesus.
Because I only had so much time to do this. So we're into the final stretch of this film now. They're standing victorious over Neil McDonough's twitching corpse.
Is he quivering from masturbating, or is he got a brain injury?
No, he's got nerve damage.
Oh shit, okay, he got fucked up.
Yeah. And so they're standing over it, and then reality splits and Stanley Tucci emerges into their world.
Does he care that his manservant has been fucking paralyzed, or?
No, because there was the whole walking in while masturbating issue. So he's Neil McDonough was kind of expendable to him in many ways.
Oh, so he wasn't masturbating over Neil McDonough?
No, God, no, he's not a pervert.
Oh, it was a picture of his mum?
Yeah.
Or sister?
Both. This weird picture that you got. So the final confrontation. So Road Warrior Patrick Fabian says, "Did you do this to us, you bastard? I had a life of steadfastly refusing to slam my wanger in a Melissa Joan Hart's filthy, disgusting crevice, and you took that from me." Then Stanley Tucci says, "Well, I had the whole multiverse at my fingertips, and still nobody was even willing to entertain the thought of doing mouth and hand things to my penis, so imagine how I feel." And then unconscionably smug horseman Patrick Fabian says, "How do you think I feel? My dick turns into money every time I blast my pathetic produce, and I haven't felt the touch of a woman since 1995. And then Stanley Tucci says, "Really? I thought I was the only one so pathetic that they lost their virginity at the age of 47 and haven't had sex since." And then the teat says, "Fucking loser." And then Stanley Tucci destroys the multiverse and the movie just ends.
It seemed like there was a moment there that he was a bit more sympathetic.
Yeah, but then the teat called him a fucking loser and he just got angry.
That seems like the teat was the real villain of the piece.
In many ways, it is a meditation on how the hero in all of us can so easily become the villain if you call Stanley Tucci a fucking loser.
Yes. Aaron Eckhart, 2010.
Do you want to know the title of this film?
Yes.
This might put some context into everything I've said in this fucking podcast.
I fucking doubt it, but go on.
Because the title of this film is Crisis on Infinite Patrick Fabian's : Dawn v Patrick Fabian.
You know the biggest mistake in Dawn v Justice?
What?
It was the V.
Yeah, because that makes it sound like a legal case.
Even Dawn of Justice is stupid, but the Batman v Superman thing, if they just had verses but shortened it to VS dot.
Yeah.
Or, did the just verses.
They done goofed on that one.
But that was clever. I understand now. It all falls into place. I mean, not really, because the Crisis events are fucking mind fuck.
I was basically just going for Crisis as the DC thing that is always to do with the multiverse. And so that is why all of my things have been to do with alternate universes. And that ties everything up into a lovely, neat bow. And then I'm going to go and dunk my genitals in a bucket of water.
But no, I liked your film, bitch. I liked the callback and the attempt to establish a franchise and then the scuppering of any attempt to do so. It's like, okay, we built this multiverse that we can now address. Because you never used to have this in films. You didn't just have one film and then a character pops up, other than in maybe a cameo or sort of a slightly shared universe, kind of very loosely based idea.
Yeah, the closest you had was Ray Stantz from Ghostbusters appearing in Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Exactly. There is no greater example than that.
Now, nobody back then was looking at that going, shared universe of Ghostbusters and Casper.
What a moneymaker.
Hashtag what?
But no, you are pulling what is known as a Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And basically delivering a press packet of your multi-billion-dollar franchise and then scuppering it in the same film.
Yeah.
By just going and then they all died because the T is the worst Patrick Fabian for some reason, which I take as a slight on my creative skills, by the way. That it seemed to be that my Patrick Fabian's got shortchanged.
Well, only one of yours was actually in the film.
One only one was featured when I have at least 3. 4!
I will tell you for why.
For why, okay.
Madame Theo.
Yes.
Because I did not remember a single one of your film pitches.
But you remembered the sequel to one of my films.
Yeah, well, I happen to have all of my notes still in Google Docs, so I could only really draw on my own. But then I remembered the teat because of the image that is, like, scarred into my brain now.
It's a good one, isn't it?
So that is why only one of your Patrick Fabians appeared in my Patrick Fabian crossover spectacular, Dawn v. Patrick Fabian.
It's possibly for the best, because I feel like my Patrick Fabians would get, like, horrifically murdered, or, like, there just loads of pitfalls would happen to them. They'd be, like, falling over, injured horrifically in the crises event. To be fair, you sacrificed one of your Patrick Fabians quite early on in the film.
Yeah, the old blindo over there.
We have enough Patrick Fabians that either we could do a Rick and Morty rip-off kind of thing, or we could do a Pokemon Go app. We could do like a...
Hunt the Patrick Fabians.
Yeah, we could do like a Patrick Fabian Go. You know, find all the different versions of Patrick Fabian. They can only say what they are, but there's lots of them like around and some of them are rare.
Lots of them appear in public toilets for reasons that we don't want to go into right now, so stop asking.
Yeah, murder scenes of murders.
Yeah.
In traffic. Crimes in progress quite often.
Yeah.
Alleyways.
Stabbings.
Get them all.
Yeah. Catch all of the Patrick Fabians.
Yeah, you become a trainer. You're like 14 or something, you're like 11, and you just go around catching grown men who should know better.
All 14-year-olds should know supporting actor from Better Call Saul, because that is what the kids like these days. They don't like their Tamagotchis and fingering. They watch the Better Call Sauls.
He said on his way to court.
Yes, I might be going to court as well.
Yeah. Well, that's given me an idea, because potentially we could just get one of those slider machines that just look like a phone.
Yeah.
We just get one of those, push you in it, and get another fill out.
I can go into an alternate universe where I'm not on trial.
Yeah, or get the other one, put him on trial, then you can come back, and then all done.
So we get the Phil with the black goatee beard to go on trial.
Oh, well, no, he'll probably be a bit too crafty.
Oh.
And a powerful ally one day.
So, like, Phil from the universe where everyone is ducks.
Yeah.
Duck Phil.
Duck Phil. I quite like Duck Phil. I mean, maybe we could just get the version of Phil when you died in that horrific car crash, and we'll just get your body, throw it on the floor in the courtroom in front of the judge and say, there, your fucking problem now, and then just leave it.
He hath deceased.
Who's saying that? Because if it's you, then they may question.
It's me, but I have a fake moustache on over my actual moustache.
Yeah, are you also doing a voice?
Yeah, I'm doing the Stanley Tucci voice.
Okay, so that's
He
right.
hath deceased.
That sounds like a syphilitic Patrick Stewart.